Hi everybody, welcome to the channel for a new practice game. This time I was playing against Marchema, who was playing Infernal Dwarves. Really happy to get more practice against Infernal Dwarves. My list, you know it already, it's the same as the previous game, so I wanted to test it again. He was playing the following list, so he has a Master Occultism, then he has a Small Prophet, Toric Ritual, which is always a pretty cheap piece of chaff that also brings a spell to the list, which is always nice. A Vizier BSB with a 1-up, then he has a Conjurer Adept Pyro with Binding Scroll. Also worth mentioning the nice combo that he has, but it's pretty expensive as you can see. Basically, he has the automatic thing that makes you flammable. Then the Breath of the Brass Bull, because of Flame of the East, is flaming, so he gets reroll to wound, breath weapon automatically. Basically in close combat with AP 10, so it's definitely not bad. And he gets an additional health point. Then 27 Citadel Guards, Pistol and Spears, 15 with Discipline Banner, 22 Levies, 25 Immortals with the Infernal Weapon and Relentless Banner, 4 Toric Anointed Great Weapon with Discipline, a Rocket Battery, an Afterthrower, an Infernal Engine. So definitely the main threats for me, the shooting pieces. The engine is always something you need to pay attention to, but it's not so mobile, and then he has some very solid block. But not so many, as you can see, not so many chaff pieces. Only the Prophet can chaff properly. The rest doesn't move that fast, so I should have a mobility advantage. We play randomly Spoil of War and Control Trust, and below you have the spell selection. Worth mentioning, on my side, I picked the double Fireball plus Swarm of Insect to threaten the Rocket Battery because it's one element of volatility in the matchup. Definitely, if I can get rid of it soon, it should help me, being sure that I have enough combat forces when I reach combat. And on his side, I was a bit surprised he didn't pick Griffcall. I think instead of number 5, I would have probably picked Griffcall. I think Marfadum has some target, but definitely Griffcall has probably more. I don't know if he was afraid because of the MR that I have, but I think Griffcall can do some job on my blocks and can also threaten the monsters. So I probably would have picked it, even with Strength 5. And then a Prophet, possibly take Hereditary. I think it's maybe better than Lash that is only good against my Frost Mammoth. Let's move on to matchup analysis. And also, with Pyro, maybe I would have also taken 2d6 Strength 4 instead of Flaming Sword, which I think is not so useful in the matchup in comparison to 2d6 Strength 4. Anyway, matchup analysis. It has only one chaff piece, but resilient block, unbreakable engine, so I know that with doubling the ranks and so on, I'm not going to break him on the charge. My 3 blocks should do huge damage to his infantry and anointed. 1 versus 1 combat should be in my favor. Main threat, shooting pieces, but they are quite the Dafta in short range. I need to pay attention to that, and obviously I'm going to target the rocket with magic. Secondary, I should get bot control. I feel I have higher charge range, more chaff, superior combat output. So I should have an advantage on Spoil of War. So my game plan is to move forward, deal with the Rocket Battery, make the priority on Spoil of War, try to get some points from range, and then it's either I get the win on secondary and small win on points, and he plays quite defensively, or I try to play more for the spoil and make it more open, and then it could be very open. So I felt drawish, maybe with a small advantage in my favor since of the secondary, basically. So there is this uncertainty about the range damage he might do, but definitely I feel on the board control and the Spoil of War, it's a small advantage on me. So I would say, based on paper, without taking into account secondary, I would say drawish, and then he has a small advantage because of that. Deployment. So I run the roll for sides, meaning on Counter Trust and Spoils, not the best. I would have liked the opposite, especially since the map, as you can see, doesn't give me a huge advantage. The only choice that I made is to basically make one of the spoil harder to reach for him because of the impassable. Other than that, no huge advantage here. I took some cover from the forest and that's it. He started to deploy, obviously, and deployed here a unit of vassals to push me back in the middle, which makes sense. My first drop was a giant here on the right to push him back on his strong flank. Which I think was the right choice. What I should have done, I've looked about it, and then I don't know why I changed my mind, but I should have just angled the giant, move him maybe half an inch back and put him in diagonal to make sure that if he puts his artillery piece like he did in the ruin to avoid my shooting, that he cannot get into my front arc. I could have done better here. So a bit disappointed about that. Could seems like a detail, but since I'm not starting, can shoot at me turn 1. It's 4 shot on a 4-up. If I roll a bit, if I'd lose a giant on that, would be really stupid, basically. I think I had ways to make it more or less the same, what I wanted here on the right, without risking too much. And then, if you want to be in my front arc, I could force the War Machine to be deployed here all the way to the right, which makes it not so good anymore. So I felt, yeah, not a perfect placement with giant. His second drop was... What did he... I think he put the Citadel Guard here then on the left to push me back here, which makes totally sense. Meaning now I cannot push him back any good way, so I just place a unit of tribesmen here in the middle. He plays in something else. I put another tribesman unit, I guess. And then he dropped for first turn, so we have Citadel Guard, the 15 with Discipline, the tank as a support piece, the vassals, the chaff piece, the block of Citadel Guard with the gunnery, the Immortal with the characters. He has BSB and the general in it, the rocket battery and the Troika Anointed. So already with his deployment, he's showing some respect regarding my combat power. He's not putting too much forces in the middle. He's really strong on the right side. So I'm trying not to give for free any spoils, but at the same time I don't want to have any unit with less lateral mobility being blocked on his strong flank. So what I've done is putting a second monsters just to tell him, be careful, because if you push max and I get the 2 monsters in combat striking before you, with all the impact and that my attack, you break. So he cannot just push for free, meaning there is no spoil for free, but at the same time I can move away, I can do stuff. And this also makes, I wanted to make him think twice if he wants to push the Immortal fast towards the middle, or if he wants to keep the Immortal a bit more to manage my monsters, maybe with magic and so on. And the longer he looks that way, the more time I have to push in the middle. Basically, that was the thought process. My counter deployment, I decided to put the combat Mercvets on the left, thinking not so afraid about that. I can pretty easily secure the token. And if he decides to move out of the way with the tank slowly, I can just take it with the tribesmen and then push those guys back in the middle, for example. So it depends a bit what he did. The Death Star place in the middle, I try to minimize what he might do with the rocket, so I have... as I said, everybody out of range or in a cover position except the dogs, which I don't care too much. But since he could shoot freely, my giant, it's still a bit annoying. But although the giant is not the perfect target because of resilience 5. So I accepted that, but I still decided to minimize and say then I can push. It's not so far away from where I could have been. As you can see, it's like a couple of inches that I lost. But I felt it's worth it to not get shot at my main unit from turn 1, basically. Yeah, then let's move on to Eastern 1. So Eastern 1, he went for the cover here. Don't know exactly why, to be honest, because he's not in a position to really punish any attack against this unit at the moment. So I felt he could have stayed more to the back. But again, I guess he wanted to get some cover, and the rest was pretty much far away from my shooting to force me to move forward. The tank decided to hide to be out of the 30-inch of my poison shooting to not get hurt by those guys. He stayed in position and he started to push towards the middle, getting a front arc into the giant to get some spells on him. And the small guy moved here a bit to the back, far away from my shooting. A magic phase get marked for doom on 4 dice against 4 on my giant. Did only 1 wound, so that was okay. The rocket battery tried to shoot the giant, but hit only 1 time on 4-up and didn't wound, so lucky me. And shooting, he did 1 wound with the bow against my Mercvets on 7+ and put the flammable token on them. My turn 1, so yeah, now I push. The Mercvets 12, the Death Star 12, and those guys 6 to get some good shots and get into proper position. So I'm starting to form a solid battle line here in the middle, where I have at the moment a superiority of strengths regarding combat power. Covering the angle that the tank cannot go out of arc, and yeah, push in a way that even if he moves back, I'm still going to have a pretty easy charge to force him to react on the left. On the right, I crisscross my monsters, basically knowing that the giant with the small base could be just better at playing with the bolt edge to minimize the contact and so on. And yeah, that was basically the idea, and also, yeah, keeping more than 6 here in between in case of panic check, unlucky panic check. And the chaff, as you can see, is pretty far away, not to get charged by the vassals at the moment. So we'll see what he does. In the magic phase, I get cheating all on 3 dice, but he dispelled that with 3 dice as well. And then I try to 4 dice Swarm of Insects, something that I don't do a lot. I think the right choice would have been to split my dice between the Fireball and stuff. I just 4 dice Swarm of Insects, thinking by putting -1 to hit on the Rocket Battery, it could be huge already. I 4 dice, I roll 3 6s and a 1. Ended up being a miscast 6. And I put two wounds already on my Leaguer Mage, which is not great. But I got 2 wounds and he saved both with the 4-up. So I got no wounds, no -1 to hit in exchange for my 2 wounds on my Mage. Not great. And shooting, I did 4 wounds to the Startled Guard with my Shooty Murkrat. His turn 2. He decided, he found a sweet spot. We will see. So the Death Star, the way I was angled to cover the positioning of the tank, allowed him to easily relentless into this zone where I can only charge with these 3 units, which is not great against the Immortals. But I wasn't too stressed about that since I have my chaff in position and I can easily bring more combat power. So I felt not much, too much of a big deal, and he has not really chaff to annoy me at the moment in the middle. So I felt not an issue. It could be like I call it sometimes a false sweet spot, like looks like it's really nice, but at the same time he used Relentless, cannot retreat easily, so it could be trouble as well. So we'll see it definitely going to be excited, but as you can see, there is already a split in his forces. He has like Anointed on the right, those 3-4 units in the middle, the 2 combat units, and those 2 is forcing me to, if I charge, I get a minimized contact, it could be steadfast and countercharge me with the tank. That's basically his plan. Not going to go into this trap, obviously, or at least not yet. In the magic phase, he gets a 5-up ward save in the Immortal in case I want to charge, which I won't. I dispel the rest weapon, don't want to suffer wounds from this unit. And he got Rot Within on the Shooty Murkrats here, which is not so annoying. Obviously -1's never good, but at the same time doesn't influence me too much. Just in the perspective of this combat potentially could make me hit on 4 instead of 3. And the Rocket Battery this time misfires with a 1-1, which is it causes like the misfire just worse than it should be, and it cannot shoot for the rest of the game, which is it's huge. It's a game changer. It's already a huge moment in the game that the Rocket Battery cannot shoot for the rest of the game, because I don't have to bother about it to cast spell on it. I can focus on other stuff, which is key. My turn 2. So I just slide a little bit my monsters. What I'm preparing is basically, I'm chaffing him, putting some units. As you can see, I charge, and maybe let's start with the charges. The Death Star at mid-long, like 8 or 9, I think 8 probably charge, I would say. Here with a 7 overrun into them. He prepared the Philly pass, so he, which makes sense, he just fled this charge. The only problem he has, it's going to be a rally on a 7 with no reroll, no general leadership and so on. Maybe he could have placed this guy or something within 6. I don't know if the War Machine, I think, doesn't give Infernal brand. You have probably to be rank and file. Don't know about that. Not sure about the leadership. Maybe he has leadership 9 from the War Machine. I'm not sure, to be honest. But maybe he could have put the leadership if it wasn't the case. If it's the case because of the War Machine, then it's fine. Yeah, I chaff him and prepare to slide a bit my monsters to just be able to jump on the left if I want to and create a situation of overload of combat threat. I checked that with the fail charge I would still see his Immortal if he charged my chaff, which is nice. So I just fail charge Death Star, but I'm in a fine position. This unit's far away. Reposition those guys to shoot at the chaff piece. Reposition my different chaff piece. The only thing with this new position to cover the Immortal, I'm not covering anymore the tank. So if he pushes here, I prepared my Tribesman Dart to be ready to chaff him if I want to. But this would definitely open up for me the charge here, which I'm not sure it's great for him as well. But definitely I could still buy me time with that if I need to against the tank, so I wasn't too worried. Reform those guys that the tank cannot see me, and I'm on the Spoil of War, so I'm going to grab the first one, which is what I want from him. Magic Phase, Dispel Swarm of Insect onto the little guy. This was definitely my prime target here, because if I kill him, there is no chaff left in the middle. And then I have a very good situation here. So Swarm of Insect Dispel, Got Fireball on the mage, does 1 wound with the hits and 1 wound with the blaze, so only 1 wound left. And with shooting, I just finished the mage. So that's nice, 1 spell left and 1 spell less. And obviously a chaff piece less for him. His turn 3. To my surprise, he decided to charge my chaff piece and push with the Citadel Guard. So this is going to be excited because I have my main blocks facing him. As I said at the beginning, I'm trust that in a 1-1 situation, I should do more than enough to kill those blocks. But we are pretty close, so we'll see what I can achieve with this new positioning. He's going on the spoil, so he's forcing me to react. Definitely need to do something about it. Pushes the anointed on the spoil, so he's going on 2 spoils. And here recreate the same situation as before. If I charge, it get minimized, the tank charge me. Rallied those guys on 7 or 9, I don't know about the leadership, and look that way. By looking at the picture, I'm not sure the reform is legal because of the mage. I think that's the mage with 1 wound. I think so. And it ended up all the way here. I think the position of the mage is maybe more than 8 to be within 18 here. So I'm not sure about that, but doesn't matter much. What else? He got in magic, -1 to wound on the anointed. So what he gives me is a charge on 8 from the giant and a charge on a 6 swift stride from the frosty. If I get both, he's dead, and then I'm in a great position. If I fail one, I'm in trouble because he most likely kills me or breaks me and then gets a free pivot or counter charge the other one. So I don't want to risk that, but it is a little bit of a risk for him because depending a lot on the charge on 8. Do I want to make it or not? It's like 50-50. So yeah, we'll see. I don't need to take this risk because of the position of the game I'm in, but interesting. I think made the right call to just go on it and yeah, try to force it a little bit. What else did he got? A magic phase. Yeah, that was it. I think he got 1 wound on my Merkvet with some shooting from the pistols, and then another 2 wounds with the flamethrowers against them. It was obviously long range. I didn't allow him to get any short range with marching. And close combat. Yeah, he kills 2 guys, leave me with 1 guy on 1 wound or 2 wounds. I get to attack the champ before the mage kills me. So I put all my attack on the champ. Could be useful for future combat. Because my Great Khan should be able to get rid of his characters. So I just put my 4 attack on the champion, kill him, which is great. And then the mage finish me and reform. In a way, 5Y that blocks a bit my option to get combo charge with the blocks. So that was well done for him. I go with the Death Star against his Citadel Guard block, which is less scary to fight in combat. Put my dogs in front to chaff those guys. He's going to charge here, and then I'm going to close what's left, and he gets an overrun like on 8 onto the Merkvets. And now I can move back with all my threats in the middle. As you can see, I was able to just say, let's grab it, move in the middle. You cannot charge me with both. I have a look at the middle. I put my 2 monsters in the middle as well. Those guys are out of the game, those guys as well. So I'm just have all my army in the middle while he has his 2 blocks. And that's going to be trouble for him. Big trouble, should be. The Death Star, I trust it to do well against the Citadel Guard. I think I have so many output that in 2 rounds I should get rid of it. So it's going to be interesting. The magic phase, he Binding Scroll, Awaken the Beast to avoid me getting the +1 strengths on the mage attack and so on, and all the impact, which is huge. I failed Hereditary on 3 dice, which was surprising, and 6 up that I need, but I got -1 to wound on the Death Star. And the Merkvets kill one of the Immortal, only one with the shooting. Close combat, he surprisingly did 8 wounds, managed to do 8 wounds to the Bruiser, which is quite a lot. He hit pretty well, then wounds me on a 5-up rollable, so he hit me on a 4-up, and wounded me on a 5-up rollable. I think it's a bit over average, but didn't matter much. I strike back and I kill like good half of the unit. So that was nice. He's turn 4. And he saw already basically what are his options. He's like kind of trapped, so he felt his only option could be to charge out with the small mage here in my flank to try to stick me here, because if I get the free pivot, that's the end. I mean, I'm going to get some flank, front, and so on. So there's no big option here, so it's already like one of his last options. Bring back the tank here in the middle, minimizing a bit what I might do. So if I charge, I get only 4 models in contact. Those guys push a bit forward. What else? Move the mage to buff his combats, and those guys a bit block here. Those guys pick the spoil, move forward. Here, he said at the end of the game, and I tend to agree with him, since the spoil of war is already lost, most likely, he should have probably here just pushed 12 to get a couple of inch further and maybe get line of sight here for counter charge. In the magic phase, I Binding Scroll the ward save. I don't want to fluff against those guys. I want to kill them all. And then we'll see what happens. Here I'm going to challenge with the Firebrand guy. So I should be fine. Because I have the fire ward save. He gets Cinder Cloak on his general in case I want to try to kill him with the Great Can, but I felt the challenge is just safer with the Firebrand guy, and I prefer the Great Can to focus striking in the front. He got Rot Within on my Death Star, and he failed Flaming Sword. Yeah, Flaming Sword I just dispel with my 5 dice. And that was it. Close combat, I kill all those guys, all the wounds. So the Great Can took this time Halberd, did like 2 attack I think on the gunnery, kills the gunnery, some other wounds on the unit, then he strikes, then I go. And in the challenge, to my surprise, so he gets a flaming toxic breath rerollable, but I have a 3-up ward save. He gets a D3 grind that wounds on a 6-up rerollable, but I get a ward save on the 3-up, and he gets then 2 attacks on the Great Weapon. And with all of that, I failed 3 ward save out of 4, so still managed to do 3 wounds. I did nothing to him. Meaning I won by 5, so he has a test on a 4 rerollable, and if he fails it, that's already pretty much the end. He passes the check, so at least he won his bet, and I'm stuck in combat. My turn 4. I put the 2 monsters in close combat, plus the dogs, thinking about the overrun here. Those guys attempted the long charge on the 10 on the rocket battery just to get more points, and also a bit for the fun. Here, just turn around, the tank doesn't see me, I'm threatening those guys, so we continue to play cat and mouse around here. The Merc-Vets position themselves to get shots onto the mage here, and yeah, that's it. Doesn't see me at the moment against those guys, so he has no counter charge, so I was fine to say I should get -1 to wound on the Frosty, meaning it's like he's wounding me on 6-up, he has not so many attack, I should kill a good amount, so even if I don't get through the mage right now, I'm going to kill a lot. He's not going to kill me. We can hold a bit, and at some point I'm going to countercharge with something that it's going to be too much. My magic phase, I get a dispel hereditary, but I get -1 to wound. The shooting, the BSB kills the mage. Goodbye. And then here, yeah, we're still in the duel. This time he does nothing. He has no breath weapon anymore, so he does nothing to my pyro mage. I have a charge, a flank, a banner, a rank, -4. He'll fail the break test on a 5. I pursue into his flank, and we get into this big combat where I do quite a lot of result, but I don't manage with the Great Can to kill his BSB, meaning he's stubborn. He's on 5, move forward, create again this situation, move here to shoot me. Here we start, but as you can see, I already killed quite a lot. Yeah, with shooting, going to panic those guys. They failed the check on 7 rollable, which always happen if I try something fancy with those guys. They always ended up panicking. And then, yeah, I think that was it, more or less. And then, yeah, I'm going to... The Great Can kills the BSBs, and I kill... we didn't strike all the rest, I think, but it's just the end. I think he breaks, or I kill everybody, and we just ended up stopping here. So what can I say about the game? Yeah, minimizing turn 1 while giving myself option. I think the deployment, I could have potentially switched the 2 Merc-Vets unit. Both options are fine, but when you look at what I did on the left with my Merc-Vets, combat Merc-Vets, I would have done better with the shooty ones, because they would have been further away from some of his shooting threats, and they can do stuff from range while they are not in combat. So that's an option, but at the same time, the shooting Merc-Vets did a lot of job in the middle. I mean, I killed the Torquatural guy, killed the other mage, so I don't know about that. Use the map of mobility, or his lack of mobility, against him, and the map as well. So I splitted these 3 parts of the map. I expected him maybe to deploy more compact. The way he deployed obviously caused him some troubles, and then I was just able to move everything back on turn 3. And after that, it was complicated for him. So, yeah, he kept attacking, which surprised me a bit. He could have also tried to move a bit back, organize flee pass from turn 3, but that was already kind of a bit too late. I was able to create a huge combat superiority, and then it was just too much for him. Bruiser Stars doing the job as expected, getting rid of the Citadel in 2 rounds of combat. I tried this last attempt to pin my Bruiser Stars, but still he had no resources left in the middle to countercharge and bring some more combat forces, and I still had plenty of it in the middle. Never disappointed by Miley's combat power. That's something I like a lot about the Ogres. The amount of attack, the output, the combat output is just really good. It's a lot of points into a few units, but when they get into the right combat, it's really powerful. And I think ID probably played it too aggressively. Hard to attack without chaff or securing counter charges. Here, as you saw, when he pushes, he had no chaff to chaff my threats and no counter charges in place. Meaning I went into safe combat. I took no risk at all. Could just chaff, delay the combat I didn't want so soon, get rid of the rest, and then get into more from favorable combat when I choose to. So I was really in total control in middle, and I think it shows how hard it could be to just push with without counter charge or chaff. It's just most of the time impossible. That's all, guys, for this battle report. Thanks a lot to Marchema for the game. Always a pleasure. More practice against ID was welcomed. So thanks a lot for the game. And guys, talk to you soon on the channel for more practice game. Bye.